During our activities under Operation Claw Eagle 2, the bodies of 13 detained citizens were found in a cave that was taken control of after intense fighting. Initial investigation suggests that an innocent and unarmed citizen was killed by a gunshot to the shoulder and 12 others were shot in the head. Thus, the treacherous and murderous face of the PKK is seen once again.
I'm joined now by Murad Aslan. He is an assistant professor of security studies at Hasan Kalyoncu University, as well as a security researcher at SETA Foundation. Murat, thanks so much for your time for us here, as always, at TRT World. Now, how significant is it that we now have evidence of PKK kidnapping and murdering civilians? I mean, their propaganda usually suggests that they only target legitimate military targets.
The latest incident in Gara indicates that they kidnap civilians and execute them in case they are in a hard position, like countering Turkish offensive. And imagine that this execution was by only one shot from the back of their head. And it reminds me Daesh-like attacks to civilians before the TV cameras. So what's the difference? What's the difference of Daesh, PKK, PYD, or the other sister organizations? And it's not new. If you go through the events in 1980s and 90s, PKK was organizing attacks to the villages that doesn't have any protection against any attack, because they were not imagining such kind of attacks in their villages. And they executed the whole families, the whole, villages, not discriminating old, young, women or men. So we see the real face in here. And I think there must be lessons learned for the international community, because we know that there's a huge sympathy in some countries, only since this organization is trying to, divide Turkey, maybe to weaken Turkey. And I think it's not fair.
Right. And Murat, why is the PKK in this region of northern Iraq? What's the significance of this region itself?
Many reasons for that. The first one is for sure geography, because it's really mountainous. There are many creeks and the terrain is ditchy with stones, and they can easily hide. Second thing, I think it's about political, because this area lacks exact political authority that will cover the overall north of Iraq and also the central parts nowadays. Central Iraqi government claim that they lack capacity to counter terrorist organizations like PKK, and Kurdish regional government is somehow in competition with the PKK, though this government is not that much united, because there's a competition between the tribes, either in the city of Süleymaniye or Arbil. So that means the environment fits the needs of PKK in terms of having roots in different corners at the north of Iraq.
Right, Murat, the first operation in northern Iraq was back in June. Do you believe this will be the last operation, or can we see the Turkish military even moving further into the region of northern Iraq, into Sinjar, and even further?
The latest operation was planned and implemented by an intelligence production cycle. That means it's a conscious operation against PKK's, units in Gara Mountain. Okay, now we have 50 neutralized terrorists on the ground, and they executed 13 civilians over there. I think the next stage, the next phase will somewhere else that will be identified again, depending on the intelligence, because intelligence makes these type of operations more accurate in terms of whereabouts and whatabouts of the terrorist organization. So expect more in the coming months.
Right. Murat, let's listen together to the Turkish soldier describing how difficult it was to carry out this operation.
Gördüğünüz gibi bir dere yatağı ve her iki tarafında %60 meyilli olan ve gerçekten bu bölgede hava kuvvetlerinin görerek ateş etmesine kesinlikle mani bir alanda seçilmiş bir arazidir. Mutlak surette bu yere girmek için ilgili unsurlarımızın bizzat karadan gidip oraya girmesi şarttır. Dolayısıyla böyle bir yeri seçmişler. Gördüğünüz gibi %60 değildir arkadaşlar.
So tell us more about some of these military difficulties the Turkish army had to face while conducting this latest operation.
The terrain, as you see, is really full of creeks and also high level of slopes. That means if you start an operation by means of special forces or other special units, you have to climb. Another issue, PKK pursues a strategy in establishing their camps that requires the disperse of the overall units. That means once you meet a portion of the PKK unit over there, there will be another, maybe a couple kilometers away from the actual ground. At the meantime, there are some caves in the region that they can easily hide, and they constructed by means of some construction materials. By that way, they can isolate their location to protect themselves from the difficulties of the terrain. So it's a mixture of many different thinkings, concerns that they disperse, dig in, and try to defend. And meanwhile, they locate some individuals at the heights. That means they can easily observe if any aircraft is approaching or any helicopter is passing by. And they locate air defense systems, which are a bit conventional, though. They try to, impede any probable operation.
Murad Aslan, thanks so much for that, as always, for your insight. He is a security researcher at SETA, as well as an assistant professor of security studies at Hasan Kalyoncu University.